Good morning. We're here today at Baton Rouge Bees and with Mr. Allen, and he's going to talk to us about bees. I know that you probably have some questions, and so we're going to ask some questions before we actually get in to see the bees. But why don't you tell us about the life cycle and the queen bee first?
Okay. The hive is made around the queen. She controls everything in the hive. So she is truly the queen bee. Everything that the bees do in the hive supports her, so she can lay eggs every day. She lays somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 eggs every day. As long as she is healthy, then the hive is healthy. And that's about it.
All right, tell them what they eat.
Well, bees, they eat nectar and they eat honey and they eat pollen. What they feed the baby bees is they feed them what they call bee bread. It's a mixture of nectar and pollen, and it looks like mushy yellow pollen, but it's sweet because they mix it with the honey, and that's what the baby bees eat.
Okay, and so I know that they probably eat what, from clover, from flowers? Where do they get all their pollen from?
Well, just about everything in nature makes pollen if it has a true flower. Clovers, ornamental plants, vegetables. So they just, depending on what plants are blooming at the time, is where they'll go get the pollen from.
What do your bees like to eat the most?
Well, it depends on what time of the year it is.
So different times they eat different things.
Yes. So in late winter they have maple, because that's the first tree that blooms in the forest. So, and has little seeds and little pods on it, so they get at that. Then the willow trees bloom, and then after the willows, the blackberries and the dewberries, and then clover is blooming that whole time. And then around May 15th to June 15th is when the Chinese tallow tree blooms, which that's the largest nectar producer in Louisiana, and that's where the bees make most of their honey at.
Okay, so does all honey taste the same, like from different areas of the country or the state even?
No, it varies from region to region and plant to plant.
Okay, so I mean, I've heard about if you have allergies, you should probably eat honey from the region. Why is that? Or is that true?
Well, it's kind of, well, there's a lot of studies that are done, but not, I guess, what you would call true medical studies. But there are lots of people that believe pollen does help with your allergies. It's basically like when your body has antibodies built up in it for certain things. If you get a disease and you get the antibodies built up, it'll help you fight the disease. So if you take pollen that comes from plants that you're allergic to and you eat it, the antibodies build up in your body and it protects you against, I guess, having allergic reactions to that plant. Like ligustrum, a lot of people are allergic to those.
Yeah. So what kind of benefits besides just maybe allergies do bees have?
You mean for people?
Yes.
Well, one of the biggest things is they're the only insect that produces something that we eat. So it's quite tasty on just about anything, coffee, tea. It's a substitute for sugar. Sucrose, pure like cane sugar, makes your blood sugar spike, whereas the honey has a much more level buildup of your sugar.
So if you were diabetic, it would be better to have honey than any kind of
That's what they say, right. And it also has a bunch of, what's the word I'm looking for? Minerals and vitamins in it too that you can get that are healthy for you also.
Okay,
so.
All right. Well, there are different, besides the queen bee, what other kind of like status do the bees have in their life cycle?
Well, you have the queen, like I said, who's the boss of the hive, and then you have male bees, which are called drones, and then you have the rest, which is 90 to 95% of the colony is females, or the workers. So the queen keeps order in the hive with her pheromones, and she lays eggs. The workers take care of her. They guard the hive, they raise baby bees, and then they forage. A queen can live multiple years, but most people change out the queens every year because a younger queen is more vigorous and she can lay more eggs. The workers last anywhere from 4 weeks in the summer to 4 months in the winter. They burn.
So they don't have a very long lifespan.
No, not at all. They burn themselves out. So like when bees are hatched, it takes 21 days from an egg to go to a fully developed bee. So when they hatch, the first thing they do is they become housekeepers. They help feed the bees, they help clean the hive. Then they progress a week or two later, they'll progress to guard bees, guarding the entrance of the hive, because every bee that comes in is checked out.
Oh.
Because if not, you'd have robber bees coming in and trying to steal your honey.
So what would be a robber bee? Like a different hive?
Yes, from another hive. So they have, all these hives have robber bees in them that always are probing other hives to try to get easy honey. Oh. So the bees protect from that. And then once they get into their third and fourth week, they become foragers, and that's the ones you see flying back and forth. And then they forage for about a week, and then they basically burn out, and then they die. Okay. And then the male bees, they really, the only purpose they have is to mate with the queen, and that is it. They will hang around the hive, and they take a lot of hive resources. So during the spring and the summer, they're tolerated, because every day the males leave the hive and they go congregate, what they call a drone congregation area. And you have thousands of drone bees, males, that just wait, and they wait for the queen to fly by, a virgin queen, and then they mate with her. And she'll mate with anywhere from 10 to 15 different males. But as soon as they mate with her, they die. So, but at the end of the day, they come back and they'll go back into the hives. But any hive will accept a drone bee. So I don't know if they go back to the same when they try to, I guess. But when it gets in, especially in northern climates, when it starts turning cold and it's winter, the bees will kick out all the drones and let them starve to death, because they just take up too much resources during the winter, and they're not needed because the queens are not breeding at that time. So
I guess my question would be, like, sometimes there would be, if you would walk by a tree or somewhere and there would be just a big cluster of bees in there, would that be a drone?
No, that's going to be an actual swarm of bees that landed there. And sometimes they will, most of the time they're going to make a nest in some type of cavity. They will make, because I had one up here, I had an exposed comb. Okay. Sometimes they'll make exposed combs off of branches and ceilings, but that's not the norm. Most of the time they want something like a house, attic, or a hole in a tree to make it.
All right, well, another question that one of the little girls that I know, she asked, Lydia wanted to know, do all bees have stingers? And I know that in honeybees, if they sting you and they lose their stinger, they die. Yes. In a honeybee colony, the queen has a stinger, but it's not barbed, so she can sting you as many times as she wants. She's like a wasp. Oh, okay. A wasp has a smooth stinger too, but a queen bee does not sting. It takes a lot to get her to sting. When she fights if she happens to hatch in a hive where there's two virgin queens, they will fight each other to the death to take over the hive. Or if she hatches and they have more queen cells that hadn't hatched yet, she'll go and chew a hole in the side and she'll sting them and kill them. Drones do not have stingers, so those are good to play with. You can hold them in your hand, and then all the workers have the barbed stinger, like you said, and once they sting you and it sticks in you, it pulls their intestine out and it kills them. So yes, but not all bees have stingers. I mean, there's thousands of different types of bees, different species. Some of them have stingers and some of them don't. So okay, all right, well, maybe we should get our bee suits on and let's go look at some of our bees.
We'll do it. Let's do it.
All right, so we're all zipped up in our bee suits. We've got it zipped around our necks, zipped down. We got our gloves on so that we're not going to get stung. I just learned that the honeybee is the third strongest stinger in the bee class. So we want to make sure that we're protected.
There you go. So I always put different marks on top of the hives, because when the bees are, like when the queen comes back from her mating flight, she'll see this, because she orients herself a little bit before she goes.
So they have good eyesight?
Yeah, and she'll be able to recognize what hive that she came out from, because a lot of times they look the same, but you know, I have bricks and logs and different things. So, but let's see. So these are new. I just tried these out this year. I actually like them a lot. You can close this, and you can, when you're moving bees, it makes it easy.
So it's a new kind of box.
Right. Let's see there.
So we talked before we were filming about what the smoke box does, but it calms the bees down.
Right, it makes them eat the honey and it just makes them more docile. So this frame, this is going to be future bees. This is what they call brood, capped brood. They're putting some nectar in here. You can see that. You can see that shiny stuff. And I do not see her on here. Let's flip her over.
So we're looking for the queen bee. These are all workers right here.
Yeah, all of these are workers, and there may be some drones, but probably most of them, a majority of them are workers.
So how many bees are in each hive?
Well, a mature hive has between 30,000 and 60,000 bees. So if you see that, you can see all the nectar they put in there. See that?
Oh, yeah.
All that shiny stuff. Watch, I want you to feel that. Just hold it like on each end. You can squeeze it just like that.
Oh, it's very heavy.
Yeah, it'll be twice that amount.
Yeah, that is
when
heavy.
So she's not going to be on this. She doesn't lay eggs where they're putting the nectar. She'll probably be on the next frame over is what I'm thinking. And you have to be careful putting the frames in because you can kill her if you rub her against the other frame too much.
Oh, wow, that's a lot on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And so the yellow ones right here, those are the
Oh, there's
little
the queen
bees.
right there. See her walking?
Oh, yeah.
See how she's bigger and shinier?
Yep. You were right. It was right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. So what were you saying? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just
Oh, no, the ones that are underneath, those are all the eggs.
Yeah, the eggs that have been capped in the cells. I'd put another frame in here. Let me see.
So each box has a queen?
Yes, every one of these, that's all pollen. We were talking about the bee bread. See the little yellow? Here,
Oh,
get
yeah.
a picture of that, Rob, if you can.
So bee bread. So then they lay the egg on top of that?
No, it's stored there. They actually
they
just
just
pull
store
it
it
out
in
when
there.
they need it.
Okay.
It's kind of like a little pantry, and they usually you can have combs with pollen, honey, and eggs on it. But so I know this hive is good because I see the queen. Now I don't know if she's mated or not, so I'll have to wait another couple of weeks, and then because I didn't see any eggs yet. All right, now we're going to open up. I'm trying to think of which one was the nicer of these. Y'all come over here and we'll open up this one. And I just write notes to myself. I took this from our farm on 2/25/20 and I brought it back over here because they make better honey over here. These bees have not built up that much. They just have a few in here, but I'm gonna move this box over here, Laurie, watch. And then that way they won't.
So what's that on the top? That's a honeycomb?
Yes, you can see the honeycomb they made in here. And what they'll do is they'll connect the top and the bottom boxes. I'll show you some fresh, watch, let me just smoke it. Now this is a feeder right here because you have to feed them at certain times of the year. But I'll show you a couple of different, these are, you can see the new frames I put in. I'll show you what they look like before and after. So the frames are like this when you put them in, and then they start drawing the wax off of it. And then when they get them, and you see that's what it looks like a little further down the line. And then when they get it drawn out and full of honey, that's all brood and eggs, but you can see how wide it is.
Oh, yeah.
They'll draw it out like that and then they'll fill all of that with honey. But so the main honey flow in Louisiana is from May 15th to June 15th. Everything else that they get starting from the late winter is they use to build up the colony. They don't really make too much excess stores on it.
Okay.
So in that 1 month, I'll have 2 or 3 more boxes, sometimes 4 boxes this high, and they'll fill that all up in that 1 month.
Oh, wow. Getting all this? Wow.
And
A lot of bees.
Yep. I was trying to find one that has a.
So do you wear your bee suit every time?
Yes. A lot of people I know only wear a hood, but that's going to be hatching pretty soon.
Yeah.
And when
That's a lot of eggs in there.
right, I mean, each one of these probably is going to be, this is probably 2,000 bees right here. So when all of this hatches, it'll, you're looking at 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 bees in a matter of 21 days.
Wow. Well, I know that we want to take care of our bees as much as possible.
Right.
So they can pollinate.
Oh yeah.
And they really pollinate mostly vegetables and flowers, fruit trees.
Yeah, well, it could be anything. It could be ornamental plants. It can be fruit trees, vegetables, anything. I haven't seen her yet, but I'm not going to look for her because she's going to be too hard to
Oh,
find.
that's fine. We saw that one queen.
Mm-hmm. Here, y'all go ahead and walk on out, and then I'm going to put this back together. The 10 foods that feed the world do not require pollination. It's stuff like soybeans and some of the grain crops. So we would not starve if we did not have the pollinators. We just would not have quite as delicious a diet, because things like strawberries, watermelons, and anything you can think of that's good in the food world, it takes a pollinator to help make. And there are other pollinators besides honeybees, but honeybees are the supreme pollinator.
Yeah.
That's why they've moved all over the world. In Louisiana, we ship 40 18-wheeler loads a year to California to help with the almond pollination.
So you take them from Louisiana, they go to California, they go in the almond trees.
Yes,
and then they come
back. They ship them there in January. Each 18-wheeler load can hold 430, 450 colonies. They'll ship them out there in January. The almonds will bloom like in February and March, and they'll ship them back here in March. And because they're just getting them back now, or they got them back about 2 weeks ago. And they'll make a honey crop. So they bring them out there, make the pollination, come back here, make a honey crop, and then they'll send some to the East Coast for blueberries, cranberries, apples, and stuff like that.
So when they go out to the almond trees, do they get that pollen and stuff, and so does the honey taste like different?
Well, I'm sure the honey that they make off of almonds does taste different than Louisiana, but they make very little.
Okay.
Because one thing is, the beekeeper does not want all that extra weight on the hives when they ship them, because it costs more to ship them.
Yeah.
But they don't make a lot of honey off of almond anyway. But yeah, so I think we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Depending on the time of the year and the time of the plant, that will determine on what the honey is like. In Louisiana, most of our honey is what they call a medium to dark amber. It's more of what they call a food grade honey, where these big, like General Mills and Quaker Oats, adds it to their cereals and different things. But people have really come to enjoy the tallow tree honey. It's an amber honey, but it has a great flavor. So it's a lot of the stuff that comes off of alfalfa in the Midwest, that's almost like, it's like water white. And like citrus honey that comes off the citrus trees is really light too. So just depending on what they get it from will determine on how thick or how dark and robust the honey is.
Okay, that sounds good.
Well, I want to thank Lori and Arrow Pest Control for letting me speak about my bees a little bit. I'm passionate about them. I love my business, and everybody needs to support beekeepers and protect the honeybees.